Hey, it is John Hoff here, and I have Matthew Cress, low carb dietitian, nutritionist. How's it going, Matt?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And I am actually super excited I'm always excited for our live stream calls, but I'm actually really excited for this one today because we're going to talk about nutrition labels. We're going to go over some. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to look at some different nutrition labels and Matt and I are going to give kind of our opinions on them. Okay, so let's start with Coke Zero. Coke Zero has zero carbohydrates. And here's the ingredient list. I'm not going to go through and read all ingredient lists because I probably can't name half of them, some of them. um, But what sticks out to you here, Matt, on Coke Zero? And then we can also look at Diet Coke. What kind of sticks out in your eyes?
Well, the phosphoric acid and the aspartame, I'm not really a big fan of because those are fake sugars and those are going to ruin your gut microbiome. Also, the one of those last few, I can't even see it, ace sulforamine potassium.
You're looking at this
I
one?
have no idea what that is. I would
Oh,
have to look that up. But I always think
mm-hmm.
if I have to look it up, you have to assume that it's not good for you.
Yep.
And I'm going
And
to tell you, there are probably very few people that got healthy drinking a Coke.
yeah, yeah, it's not a health drink at all.
Mm.
It really isn't. And then down here, kind of the same deal. This aspartame, that is if you Google that and is it healthy, is it not healthy and all that, you'll probably see some mixed messages going on. People will show, because studies have shown and when I say studies, a lot of these are done in rats, but that some possible side effects or long-term side effects, cancer, diabetes, you name it, it's like all the bad things, seizures, and so on and so forth. I personally stay away from these things. If you want a healthy lifestyle, any kind of soda like this should not be in your diet.
Yeah.
It's low
And
carb. It's low carb, but is it healthy, Matt?
no, I would like to say though that there are a lot of people that need the kind of effervescence, that fizzy aspect of a drink that they really enjoy. And what you can do is you can get, for example, sparkling water and add in, like lemon juice, or, you can add in, something different, like a little flavoring. But you can also do natural. I would even prefer you to have like champagne, for example, rather than this, because that's, natural alcohol
Mm-hmm.
rather than having you put, aspartame in your body. You
Yeah.
know, in my opinion, when I think about, these cans that have, all these chemicals in them, maybe that one can isn't going to do it, but one drop of poison is still one drop of poison.
Right.
Eventually after a while, you're going to fill the bucket, you're going to fill the bathtub. If you add in one drop all the time, it will eventually fill up and it will eventually cause problems. Maybe these studies don't show adverse effects within 2 weeks, but that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at the effects over your long-term life. Have the cans of Coke or, cans of whatever that contains aspartame, have they brought you a net positive or net negative? Have they helped you, be as healthy as possible? And I think that answer should be a resounding no.
Yeah. I agree 100%. Coke Zero, or not Coke Zero, Gatorade Zero. So this one is showing serving size 12 fluid ounces and total carbs is less than 1 gram, no sugar. But take a look over here. So what do you think about this, Matt?
So we were talking about this a little bit earlier, and I'm going to steal your thunder because you
Mhm.
were totally right. The sucralose that you see a little bit farther down is what is going to sweeten the drink to make it palatable. And no one's going to sell a product that doesn't taste good. And that sucralose is going to make that drink taste sweeter, but it's a fake sugar that they made in a factory in, not necessarily hazmat suit, but they are chemists making this. They aren't necessarily
It's a chemical.
your farmer.
Mm-hmm.
It's a chemical. And it is going to ruin your gut microbiome because it is not a natural product. Point.
Yeah. Totally. And on top of it, with sucralose, the interesting thing is some people will get an insulin spike, and some don't. If you Google it, you always just Google or DuckDuckGo. I like DuckDuckGo a lot, but if you search these things, you'll find some people do have the spikes. So it's kind of that gray area, even with the blood sugar thing. But yep, and then yellow 6 and all of these things, like. I don't even know. I mean, if I Google this, I'm sure I don't even want to know what this stuff is,
Yeah.
So, okay, Keto Bread. This is one that I took some pictures of. You actually posted in our Facebook group, Matt, with this keto white bread. So this is where the keto white bread, and you see it's 12 grams of carbs, 12 grams of fiber. Wow, that's net carbs, 0. Oh my goodness, I hit the holy grail, right? I can have bread again on keto. And someone sent in the package or something to actually be tested to see what it really was. Can you kind of give us the brief overview of what I'm looking at, like with this nutrition facts over here?
So so technically a manufacturer is going to give their ingredient list to a dietitian or nutritionist, and they are going to calculate, they're going to figure out, by hand or by machine, how many fat, carbs, and protein are in a certain product. And when this person sees that there are 12 total grams of carbohydrates, and then they add up the total grams of fiber, they just say, oh, well, that just nets out to 0, and we've got a net total of 0 carbs. Well, that's actually not happens when you eat the bread and it's actually in your body. When you are eating this bread and it goes into your body, it is not 0 grams of carbohydrates. You will get an insulin spike from this because there are still carbs that are being eaten. The carbs, when you eat 7 grams of carbs that has 3 grams of natural fiber, for example, broccoli, that fiber and those carbs are intertwined naturally, and that is what causes the carbs to be negated. But when you have 2 separate entities of separate carbs and separate fiber, they don't mix. They sit on top of each other like oil and water, and they do not cancel each other out. And the carbs that you're eating in will get absorbed and will cause an insulin spike, and the fiber that sits on top is just going to be roughage that goes through your system. So this is labeled as keto, but if you're eating bread on a ketogenic diet, you are not being as appropriate as you should, and you should reconsider what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, a keto diet is not a bread diet. Right?
No bread. It's not rocket science. Like, it's a trigger word that people use, and these companies have used the keto population as a target audience to sell their product. And the keto diet is a low sugar, low grain diet. If you are eating grains and you are eating sugars, you are not doing the keto diet. Full stop.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be like the bearer of bad news. Like, and if you need like a kick in the butt to realize that like you're eating too much processed junk, then let me be that kick in the butt, because this is not keto and this is horrible. I hate seeing this.
Oh, the grocery aisle for cereals. I mean, is this not like, this is ruining, in my opinion, of course, this is ruining our health in America. This right here.
Yeah.
So cereal, Honey Nut Cheerios. Matt, what's going on here?
Well, nothing good. Nothing good. Well, first of all, there's the blatant lie of the heart healthy label on the Honey Nut Cheerios. It is gluten-free, sure, but is it going to help your gut? No. Turn it over and you're going to get an ingredient list, and you're going to see whole grain oats, which is, technically, whole grain oats could be a part of an ancestral diet if you're properly preparing them by fermenting and by eating them very minimally, but they're not going to contribute to someone that has to work on diabetes or insulin resistance. They are a no-go. Next is sugar. And ingredient list goes in order of weight. So the highest ingredient is the oats. Then the next biggest ingredient is sugar. And the next biggest ingredient is oat bran, cornstarch, honey. So what manufacturers will do is, in order to make sugar not the first ingredient and not the biggest ingredient, is they'll divide sugar up into 3 separate categories. So you'll have, for example, 1 cup of oats, but you'll have 2/3 cup sugar, 2/3 cup honey, and 2/3 cup brown sugar. And that does this to sugar count, while they still have the right to say, there's more whole grain oats than, the individual divided out sugars. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd like to mention real quick, because you mentioned like with the heart healthy, like say it's lower cholesterol and everything like that. We won't dive too much into it here, because maybe a little bit beyond the scope of this conversation, but since it says it here, lower cholesterol and stuff, listen, heart disease, a big, if not the most contributing factor to heart disease is inflammation. Would you agree, Matt?
Yep.
Okay.
And from insulin resistance.
Yes.
Insulin resistance and inflammation go hand in hand, and they are the number 1 contributors to heart disease.
Yeah, insulin resistance is like the really heart disease, but not really said to be that word, huh?
Yeah. If you have insulin resistance in your body, then you are more likely to have, the onset of a heart problem later on, whether it be a heart attack or, a blocked artery or hypertension or whatever. But you get insulin resistance by eating an excess of processed foods. And this is a processed food, because Honey Nut Cheerios do not grow on trees.
Right. And this, for me, when I look at this is inflammation in a box. I mean,
Yep.
Sugar, it's so inflammatory, and you're going to be damaging everything in your body. I mean, it's just, it's just I could go on and on about it. It's just ruining our health. So let's move on to the next one here, because I got a couple that are a little more on the kind of healthier kind of touted, if you can say healthy in any in the same sentence as cereal. But here's this Cocoa Chimps organic. This is in Sprouts, and here's our ingredient list. Right. And then here's one, this Magic Spoon, which is touted as a low carb cereal. What's your take on these here?
Well, I don't know either of these brands because I live in France. But the Cocoa Chimps, you know what? That would be a dessert. I would be okay if you have reached your end goal and you are, the image of health. You could have this. The whole grain, the cornmeal, the cane sugar. This is a dessert. There is less
organic, so that's good.
In it, but this is, sugar in a box. This is not a meal. This is a dessert. And that's the problem, is that most Americans are having dessert for breakfast. And that is not helping our health. The Magic Spoon that's next to it, I don't know it, but it seems to have a better balance between protein, carbs, and fat. The protein blend seems to be pretty okay with the milk protein isolate, whey protein isolate. Some people tolerate it differently depending on, your digestive system. The coconut oil is fine. The tapioca flour is tolerable. It could be a stepping stone for someone going, let's say Cocoa Puffs. They go Cocoa Puffs, Magic Spoon, and then next would be Cocoa Puffs, Magic Spoon, and then eggs for breakfast, and bacon, and an avocado or something along those lines. But it's not the worst. but it's definitely not Cocoa Puffs, but there are better options for breakfast.
Yeah. Something I want to point out here, and we kind of talked about shortly before we hopped on video in here, is this allulose is going to be a sweetener that you see in a lot of low carb products. And last I looked, allulose is not going to be non-GMO. It's going to come from something like corn or wheat or something. There's some different places they can get it, I believe, in foods, but it typically will mean there'll be some kind of a GMO in it. You can double check on that. I did that research a while back, but it doesn't show on here in any case that it's non-GMO or anything. And when we say non-GMO, like this right here, the thing is like, has your food or, whatever the foods come from as far as plant source, has it been sprayed with glyphosate, with a pesticide, a poison? Because ultimately, long story short, that gets into our food and then we eat the food and that can cause health problems and everything.
Yeah.
So
And those chemicals are very hard to process, and these are not, how we would say don't go near asbestos in the house because it can cause internal damage. It's the same thing. The glyphosate that's being sprayed to kill off pests and weeds from the crops, when you eat that, it's going to kill off other things in your body that, make you healthy. So
yeah, just search online glyphosate lawsuits. You will not like what you see. Not like it. All right. So I had Cocoa Puffs here. We'll skip over this one. We kind of already went over, with the Cheerios. It's basically sugar in a box. It's inflammation in a box. And
let me, I do want to mention, they've done very good marketing with having the vitamins and minerals be longer than the ingredients. And, very, very good job to Cocoa Puffs, but all those vitamins and minerals are not naturally found. And all they've done is opened up a box of artificial vitamins and minerals and have, dumped that into the mix. There are no natural vitamins and minerals in this.
mm-hmm.
And they have bought, and I will tell you, they have bought the cheapest vitamins and minerals that are on the markets to put them in so that the name can appear on the ingredient list. This is not for you to get your tricalcium phosphate, calcium carbonate, vitamin C, iron, and zinc.
Yeah,
These
right.
do not give you health. On top of that, a lot of these are going to be inactivated because of the pure load of glucose that you're eating.
Totally. It's all going to be negated. Exactly. It won't be absorbed, essentially. I wanted to mention real quick on the bread. I just thought about it. It's kind of hard to see on the ingredient list here. I'm sure this one has it. Wheat, like wheat starch, modified wheat or whatever. With these breads, they contain wheat and gluten. Gluten itself is inflammatory in everybody. It activates something called zonulin in everybody. That causes some level of inflammation in everyone. To what degree, everybody's a little different. But since we mentioned the glyphosate thing, since we mentioned spraying crops and stuff, like if your bread that you're eating, if you're doing low carb and you're eating bread, okay, and you flip it over and you look and your ingredient list has wheat in it. First of all, I believe wheat is is not a great thing for the human body to eat and digest. Okay. There's a book called Wheat Belly by Dr. Davis. Go read that book. It was like the second or third book I read in my low carb journey. Wheat Belly, go read that book. You'll be amazed at what's going on there. But when there's wheat in a product, okay, and it's not non-GMO or organic. If it's organic, it's automatically non-GMO, just so you know. But if it's non-GMO, it's not necessarily organic. But if it's non-GMO or organic, then it at least hasn't been sprayed with that heavy pesticide, and you're not getting that. So like there are some bread out there. I'm not talking about low carb bread. I'm just saying bread. Like you go to a grocery store, you see bread and it's got wheat in it, but it says organic bread. And that at least is a little bit better in that you're not ingesting those really bad chemicals that have led to so many lawsuits, to people getting cancer, so on and so forth.
Go to a bakery. That's
What's
it.
that?
Go to an actual bakery and buy real bread. What a concept. Bread doesn't come in a plastic bag. Bread comes from a bakery, and it's hard in 2 days, maybe the next day. Your bread that you're eating should be sourdough bread if you are eating bread, but in this case, we're not talking about eating a low-carb diet, but it would be much better for you to eat just regular bread than eating this processed crap.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, but like,
Mhm.
I'm going to be blunt here. Eat real bread. Eat real food.
Yeah. Eat real food. I like it. I have, this was a really good one that I like to take in here, this picture. So Bulletproof. Okay. I like the Bulletproof brand. I take their supplements, Bulletproof coffee, like the actual package of coffee. That's my coffee of choice, the original. I drink it every single morning. In fact, I got a little bit right here still left. But this is their collagen bar. Okay. And they have, net carbs. I'm sure they said net carbs, 1 gram sugar or whatever, but it's touted as keto. Now here's the Lara bar, and Lara bar isn't necessarily touting itself as low carb or keto, but the first thing that we're going to see, Matt, is the ingredient list. Remember my kind of litmus test? Does it have 1, 2, maybe 3 lines of ingredients? Notice a difference, right? So give me your take on this here.
So outside of the low carb hemisphere, I would much prefer everyone take a Lara bar because it's made with whole foods. The keto is a great stepping stone to health, but also eating a whole foods diet is a great stepping stone to health. The Bulletproof bar is also a great option, but of the two, the Lara bar, it would be my preference because I can point out and understand every single one of these, ingredients that's in there. The pea protein, it will be the thing I'm not the most fan of, but you could get a better sourced protein from whey. I'm assuming that they are using pea protein to appeal to a vegan, community, but so like that is not the best area to be part of, excuse me, but a whey protein would be a lot better. But what I would do actually is, look at that ingredient list, think, I could buy all those ingredients right now. You pull up your phone, you pull up homemade bar recipe. I cannot tell you how easy it is to make homemade granola bars. I have done it. I stopped doing it because I went low carb, but I've done it and it's so easy. Make homemade granola. Make homemade granola bars or, energy bars. It's not hard to do. And you can make a full batch for maybe less than half the price. I have no idea where you're shopping. If you're shopping at Whole Foods, it might be a little bit different. But yeah, definitely. And you'd be getting a lot bigger of a protein or energy bar compared to how big those little suckers are.
Right. So agreed. And look, one line here versus this. Now, I would say this, okay? If you're losing weight and you're trying to lose weight through a low carb kind of diet, I'm not going to suggest necessarily going out and grabbing these protein bars and eating them right now. Perhaps if it's like that, kind of like we said, a stepping stone, I suppose maybe we could. What do you think? Or would you say if you're trying to lose weight, just write this off kind of thing?
If you're trying to lose weight, so there are a lot of tips and tricks for weight loss, but people forget the easiest stuff. Eat whole foods because it takes up more volume. Do you know how many, if you had to have, all the dates, all of the almonds, let's see, all the peas, all of the apples in that bar, in real food, in real volume, you would be full. You would have an incredible insulin spike, but you would be full. And so, but after eating this Lara bar, I don't think that you'll be full and you'll be thinking, what can I have next?
Yes. And I was going to mention that, like, for the amount of like what you're looking here, you could probably have like a ton of, veggies or something, opposed to this
Yeah.
one small little thing that you're going to eat real quick.
Yeah, that pea protein, hang on, how much protein does it say it has? It has sugar is 19 grams. Sodium, I don't think it's listed. I think it got cut off.
It got cut off.
That's okay. That's totally okay. I had assumed that this bar would maybe have like 8, 10, 12 grams of protein in there. That would be, like maybe half of a chicken breast. Add in a handful of almonds and add in an apple. That could be a full meal. It could be a full, not a meal, but that could be like a full snack for someone. You've got your protein from the chicken breast, you've got your fats from the almonds, and you've got, a carb from the apple that I would much prefer you eat rather than, a sugary treat. But, that's going to fill you up and that's going to help you with the weight loss, not this bar.
Oh, awesome. So Elizabeth said in the comment section, I just made keto homemade granola bars this morning, breakfast this week. Oh, you got to share those in the group, Elizabeth. I'd love to see the keto bars.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. We'll kind of skip over this one, but I might mention something here. This is just some other ones that we saw at the grocery store, but Lindsay picked up this bar and looked at it. It's a microbiome bar, huh? We're like, well, let's take a look at the ingredient list and brown rice syrup. I mean, like my eyes immediately went to that. My eyes immediately went to sugar. And I looked at Lindsay and I was like, seriously? Like microbiome bar, we're going to feed our gut bacteria sugar, total sugars, 9 grams. Are you with me, Matt?
Yeah.
Are you with me, everybody in the comments section? Right? I mean, come on, what's going on here?
I do see that they have a product called Probiotin, which does have microbes in it. And then the fermented grain, when you ferment something, you get beneficial bacteria. So that can help. And then they also have like root fiber, which is a prebiotic. But to be honest, the overall, effect on your microbiome from eating this bar is probably not going to be a positive. I would much rather you make homemade yogurt, make homemade sauerkraut, make homemade kefir. This is not rocket science. If you want microbes, you have to ferment your food. That's not hard. Ferment your food.
All right, we'll skip through. We kind of talked about some of this already. Let's see, chips. So let's just kind of breeze through this one real quick because we're running short on time. So Quest is a brand that is definitely in the low carb community. And I looked at this and I'm like, holy moly with all of this, right? There's my yeast extract, MSG, right? And it's not organic. It's not non-GMO. So if there's any kind of like corn or anything, this probably definitely has, I just said, this probably has GMOs in it. But then there's this avocado oil, Boulder Canyon chips that I looked at. And while this is going to be higher in carbohydrates, the ingredient list is 3 simple things: potatoes, avocado oil, sea salt. Look, I'm never going to advocate eating chips necessarily on a low carb diet, unless maybe you make them yourself or something. But like a bag of potato chips and just grab and eat, not really my first suggestion for people. However, when you have reversed any kind of insulin resistance you might have or diabetes and you're looking good and you've been doing this for a couple of years and you might want a few chips if you feel like you're okay, or if that's on your kind of diet or something. Like me personally, instead of going for something like this, I would go for something like this, and not advocating to eat a bunch of chips.
Right.
I'm just saying health-wise, I view this as a healthier option, as long as, you know, you don't have problems with diabetes and stuff, than this.
Yeah.
Quick note, Matt, what do you think?
I'm 100% on board. Don't eat chips. They're not healthy. But if you're going to eat chips, I'd rather have them be, from a 3 ingredient list, a three ingredients
Yeah,
list.
3 ingredient list. Yep. Pork rinds, do you like them on low carb or not?
Uh, Taste-wise, they're fantastic. Calorie-wise, they can be a little bit problematic, especially if someone has a hard time with hand-to-mouth syndrome, is what I call it. If you don't know how to mindfully eat, I would not recommend pork rinds. They are the equivalent of peanuts. People have no idea how many nuts they actually eat. Same thing for pork rinds. They're super fatty, and it's very easy to go overboard with them, but they are super good. They are
Yeah.
super delicious.
Yeah. Some keto cookies. These are kind of along the lines of some of the things we've already talked about with what's going on inside the ingredient list.
Don't eat cookies on the keto diet.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, if you're keto, if you're strict keto, then now you got it. That and bread, right? Okay, so here's one I want to do just for a really quick kind of comparison. Keto versus kind of paleo, right? I used to kind of say I'm on a paleo type style low carb diet. That was when I first kind of started out. That's what I was saying. Like really what I was saying is whole foods low carb is more of what I.
Whole Foods keto, but yeah.
Yeah. So you could put like these in, let's say your yogurt and berries. What is kind of your take on this keto crunch versus the grain-free granola?
Granola does not help with weight loss because let me explain. Dried fruits is the most densely packed carbohydrate source you can get from a fruit. A fruit gets its volume from the water content, and that's what helps give you the feeling of fullness. A raisin, you could eat a box of raisins and then have that be an entire bundle of grapes. And the satiety factor is not the same. So already, if you have dried fruit in your granola as a sweetener, much better than having sugar in there. But please be aware of the fact that it is still a sweetening agent, and they are going to bring calories. Regardless of how small they are, it is going to bring calories. So next I see sunflower seeds, almond soluble tapioca fiber. I'm looking at the keto one. Allulose. So we talked about the allulose beforehand and how it's not very helpful for your gut microbiome. The coconut oil is pretty good. The medium chain triglycerides I do like. Though medium chain triglycerides, MCT, is really helpful for those that have epilepsy, and it really helps brain metabolism. So that gets actually a pretty good check mark on my area. I would be less opposed to someone having the keto one. It's not the worst product on the market. This keto granola is so much better than the keto bread and the keto. What else did we have? The keto cookie. When you look at the keto cookie, you compare the ingredients and you're thinking, okay, I'd like a small treat. Already, the keto granola is going to be a lot more wholesome in terms of what you're looking at on the ingredient list. And so this is definitely preferential for the keto snacks. Compared to the paleo, it has similar ingredients, if I'm not mistaken, and I'd say it has. What are the? Trying to compare the two. 10 grams. It looks like it's got the same calories, but the keto one has a little bit more fat in it. Honestly, one or the other. Pick your choice. Both are good.
Mm-hmm.
Both could be keto, but of the keto snacks, these are the better options. but they are not part of a healthful keto diet, if you catch my drift.
Yes. All right, good. I have actually tasted these two. This one tasted better, for me anyways.
You have to measure it. You can't say, wow, 160 calories. That's great. Pour half the bag into your, Greek yogurt. That's not how that
No.
works. That is
No.
not how that works. And shame on anyone that blindly says, oh, that's great. You
Right.
pour half the bag in. Look at how many servings are in each bag. 9 servings. That keto granola, if you're eating it every single day, once per day, it should take you a week and a half to get through.
Yeah. Okay, and then this one here, Teresa sent in, wanted you to take a look at. This is some ham, Kirkland ham. It's probably bought at Costco. What do you say about this?
So ham is actually, I think it's not bad. It's definitely a better option. I would definitely have it. What they do is they take the ham in the factory and they're going to shred it, and then they're going to add in the ingredients. So the water and dextrose and salt with the vinegar, and they're going to add in all of that so that it stays stable, so that when it gets shipped, it's all set and it can stay on the shelf. And that is fine. I have no problems with that. My issue, hang on, I don't have an issue. Please eat this on the diet. It's okay. This is really not a bad option to have.
Right. And we could like nitpick at every little thing, but in
Oh
general.
yeah, and that's really what I'm doing. I'm just nitpicking. You can have this. This is something that I would say, yeah, go ahead. If I was in a pinch, I would buy this. I would buy this. I would just be concerned with, while you're eating it, it might taste a little rubbery from how it's been processed, because the natural ham should tear at its own fibers. It should have its own muscle fibers that it tears off of. When you're going to eat this, it'll bite through like a piece of cheese, for example, because it's been mixed with the water and dextrose and the salt, which will give it a more smooth texture. So honestly, my only complaint is that it just might not give you a good mouthfeel, and it might be a little bit artificial. It might take a little bit more ham to satisfy you. Whereas if you had like a real slice of actual ham, you might only need 2 slices, where here you might need like 3 or 4, whatever.
Right. Yeah. And let me see a couple of these here that I have. I want to look at. Probably should have did the tortilla one here first up, because I see this in, I used to go to low carb groups all the time, but now that I have my own, I'm in mine a little bit more, but I do see this carb balance tortillas everywhere in the low carb groups all the time. And I wanted to put that in here. And then Teresa also wanted us to take a look at these and see, what do we think about these Parmesan cheese wraps? So what's your take on these, Matt?
Those Parmesan cheese wraps, I want some. I heard those look really good. Definitely keto, definitely, like high five for finding those. Those ingredients are not bad. If you have a milk intolerance, obviously if you have a dairy intolerance, not for you, but if you can tolerate cheese, like thumbs up, it's a great option.
Okay. Do I even need to ask about the carb balance?
Don't eat bread products. Don't eat grain. Don't eat this crap. Like, I'm sorry. Like, this carb balance, you're eating a tortilla. Like, you might as well blindfold yourself and eat a regular tortilla. Like, it's into the same thing.
This is seriously, this is the whole, trying to take advantage of a marketplace.
Yeah.
And this is doing nothing for your health. There's a saying that I have, and I'm going to make a saying off of that saying. My saying is, just because it's gluten-free does not mean it's healthy for you. And the same holds for low carb. Just because it's low carb does not mean it's healthy for you. It does not mean it's healthy for you. This is going to be terrible for your health. Do not buy this if you're trying to have a healthy low carb lifestyle. Now, if your only mission, mission, get the pun? If your only mission is to keep carbs low, this could be a product for you. Though, like we've said before, it's hard to say with these because sometimes they do, in fact, spike people's blood glucose and everything. But I mean, but great health is much more than just not spiking insulin or not spiking, should I say, your glucose, your blood glucose. Yeah. I don't even know what to say with this one. This is like cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's disease, you name it, in a bag. That's what it is. Soybean oil, hydrogenated soybean oil. Okay, that's essentially meaning that there's trans fats in here. Think margarine. Yeah. Okay. What was it? The canola oil and soybean oil. I mean,
vegetable shortening.
Yeah, these are things that we say on low carb, especially on keto, like you stay away from these inflammatory oils. They cause inflammation. They cause heart disease. They cause okay, you get the point, right? Vital wheat gluten. This thing's been sprayed with glyphosate. It causes inflammation through gluten. Best foods versus chosen foods, avocado oil mayo versus the best foods, soybean oil mayo. So again here, look, soybean oil is an inflammatory oil. When you're on low carb, when you're on keto, you'll see there's the approved oils and the non-approved oils. And technically speaking, soybean oil is a low carb oil. It doesn't have a ton of carbohydrates in it, but it is an inflammatory oil. It's high in omega-6 fats. It can lead to all kinds of bad things. Whereas in the ingredient list here, avocado oil is a much, much better kind of oil to be using. Anything you want to mention on these here, Matt, before we kind of wrap this up?
Make your own mayonnaise.
It's pretty easy to do.
It's so easy. Like, stop buying mayonnaise. Make your own. It's so easy. Like,
yeah,
it might take you 5 minutes, and those 5 minutes are going to be spent setting up your, taking out your ingredients and setting up your blender. That's it. Like, making mayonnaise is so easy.
Matt, thanks so much. I appreciate your time. And you have yourself a wonderful night there in France, and I will try to have a beautiful day here in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Please do.
All right, everyone. You take care. Thank you for being here. Bye.
Bye.